تكونوا عم تسمعونا منيح. اليوم بدي أذكر بهذا الملتقى. هذا الملتقى هو ملتقى إلكتروني حول التراث الثقافي في فلسطين، وتنظم بإطار المشروع الممول من الاتحاد الأوروبي، مشروع تراثي هويتي، بتنفيذ من أفراد جامعة بيت لحم، المركز الفلسطيني للتقارب بين الشعوب، تراكتس، والتعاون الفلسطيني الفرنسي اللامركزي بين بلديتي غرنوبل وبيت لحم. وتنظم هذا الملتقى بدعم من رواق. أنا اسمي شذى صافي، أنا مديرة مركز رواق، ورح أكون معكم مع زميلتي سجا منصور عشان ننظم هذا الملتقى ونقدم لكم إياه. هذا الملتقى بشكل أساسي بيهدف إلى تعزيز التفكير الجماعي والتبادل المعرفي حول الحفاظ على الموروث الثقافي في فلسطين والترويج له. وبيشمل الملتقى زي ما شفتوا قبل عدة جلسات بمواضيع مختلفة، منها التراث والتعليم، منها التعاونات من أجل الحفاظ على الموروث الثقافي، منها أيضاً الإطار القانوني للحفاظ على الموروث الثقافي، السياحة في ظل جائحة كورونا، وكمان عم طلعنا على العالم العربي إيش فيه والإقليم إيش فيه مبادرات للحفاظ على الموروث الثقافي وترويجه. واليوم عندنا جلسة كتير مميزة رح تكون عن نطلع على أوروبا أكثر. رح نقلب للإنجليزي اليوم بالجلسة، فبحب أنوه إنه الترجمة متاحة طول الوقت على إشارة أو أيقونة الكرة الأرضية أسفل الشاشة. بتروحوا على channel العربي Arabic وبتقدروا تسمعوا الترجمة لكل السيشن. لأسباب تقنية بنطلب منكم كمان عشان تقدروا تستمتعوا بالترجمة إنه تسمعوا تحطوا أبديت للزوم تاعكم قبل ما تفوتوا على السيشن مشان تكون الانتربريتيشن تبعتكم أوضح. So today I welcome our guests today. We're having a very special session at the ending and the closure of this International Symposium on Cultural Heritage in Palestine. It's about the role of civil society in heritage preservation and promotion in Europe. As we have seen, the My Heritage, My Identity project is looking into heritage and cultural heritage in Palestine, but it's also looking at the region and what sort of collaborations, what sort of best practices that we can see in Europe and in the region that we can also benefit from and have more collaboration with in the future in terms of developing and promoting our cultural heritage. My colleague Saja will start introducing our first contributor today, speaker. We're very happy to have him. Welcome, Javier Casanovas. Saja?
Good morning, everybody. Javier Casanova, he is an architect, an engineer, and a consultant expert in restoration, urban regeneration, and sustainable rehabilitation. He is the president of Rehabimed Association and a member of the board of ECOMAS Spanish Committee. Javier is the director of many international projects focused on restoration, sustainable rehabilitation, as well as the social and economic revitalization of historic centers. He has been collaborating with cooperation agencies that work in the field in different countries for more than 30 years. Javier Casanova's contribution will be the ways the European civil society involvement in the preservation of the European cultural heritage. Javier, please.
Good morning, everyone in Palestine and everywhere. Thank you, Saja, for this presentation. And thank you to REWACT to invite me to be part of this symposium. I will share my I think it is working now. Then my presentation, first of all, a quick presentation of Rehabimet. Many of you knows the Rehabimet Association because we are working essentially in the Mediterranean countries, in the south and the east of the Mediterranean. And our job is to collaborate with local organization in order to implement activities on urban regeneration and sustainable rehabilitation in these countries. For us, the most important thing is the preservation of heritage as a factor of local sustainable development. In any case, today I will try to present a general framework in which cultural associations carry out their activity in the European countries. Because we are working essentially in the south and east of the Mediterranean countries, but also we are integrating a very active nets in the European countries. We are speaking about civil society. This is a very famous concept, but very often is not very clear for all of us. When we speak about civil society, we are not referring to individuals considered as one by one. We are referring to organized individuals outside of government and government and business organizations. Then sometimes in Europe we speak about third sector when we speak about civil society, or sometimes we speak about non-governmental organization. It's not exactly the same, but what is important is that civil society is not individual by individual, is the organizations that group these individual people for targets, specific targets. The most frequent organization of civil society is through associations. These associations always are under governmental control. The association is not possible to create in Europe associations by free way. We have to ask for the legal recognition from the authorities. And in all the countries, it exists the law of associations. And I have had the opportunity to train a lot of organizations of civil society in Algeria, for example. And the law of associations is really different from more of the European laws of association. And this law, the contents of this law, the limits of this law, show us as indicator is a good indicator about the democratic quality in the country, because it's not allowed some of the activities, some of the normal activities for these associations. The civil society in Europe is really very dynamic, and with its initiative and effort creates, protects and transmits culture much more than the public authorities. For this reason, it must be subject of special attention by public administration as the main element of participation and enriching decision-making for the citizens. In any case, these entities, these associations have a great capacity to act and influence public policies on cultural heritage, making citizens pressure to public authorities. We must know how to take advantage of this of this capacity to press the public authorities out of the pressure of economical, political, and other kind of pressure that very often endangers cultural heritage by economic or business interest. Then the capacity of the associations working in cultural heritage is really very important, and it is important to use it on the good way. Until for a long time, the association, the civil society organized on cultural heritage subjects existed in everywhere all over the world. But the first convention that focused on the role of this civil society is the Faro Convention. The Faro Convention is a convention promoted by European Council, not by the European Union, by European Council, and offers a framework to engage civil society in decision-making and management process related to their cultural heritage. The Faro Convention emphasizes the value of potential of heritage as resource for sustainable development and quality of life in an evolving society, and the important aspects of heritage related to human rights and democracy. This Faro Convention must be signed by the different states, European states, and now a lot of European states sign this Faro Convention. All of you knows that to sign a convention is not similar to implement the convention in your territory. And it is true that a lot of European countries signed the Faro Convention, but it's not true that all these countries are implementing the principles that the Faro Convention proposed. One of the most important concepts that create the Faro Convention is the concept of heritage community. Heritage community means a group of people identified with the same values and traditions. Then is an open concept, but I think in the next years, in the next future, heritage community will to take a very strong power, because it is really to go to the people and engage these people on the heritage activities. The Faro principles are developing democratic participation and social responsibility, improving the living environment and quality of life, managing cultural diversity and mutual understanding, and enhancing more cohesive societies. Then the principles are very general, but the main principle is to reinforce the heritage community and reinforce the participation of civil society in the protection of the heritage. The number of European cultural associations is really immense. Hundreds of thousands of associations exist in the different countries of Europe. The size, the type, the purpose of this organization is really very different. Some of them are totally independent, don't have public financement. Others have financing from the public or economic powers, and someone are 100% linked to these powers. Then is the situation, the independent or not independence of this organization is not every time clear, because the business powers try to go inside the associations net in order to try to put pressure in different senses. We can consider that we have three different levels for this kind of association: international, national, and local. Many of these organizations have federation in order to increase their capacity for action and to share experience. The most known associations are the international, because I have a rule in everywhere, some of them not only in European countries, also at world level, like ICOMOS or ICOM. I imagine you know very well ICOMOS and ICOM. But we have the main organization, the main civil society organization in Europe is Europa Nostra. Europa Nostra is a federation of different Europa, local Europa or national Europa Nostra in different countries. Then in Spain we have Hispania Nostra, in France they have France Nostra, and this is a very big organization with a big capacity to pressure to push to the public authorities in one thing, in one way or in another way. And also is very now the Blue Shield International Committee focus on the protection of heritage in conflict regions. Well, it is a picture of hundreds and hundreds of associations and federations and organizations that put together the different specific things or different specific targets organization in different countries. Then you can see here on the federation about industrial and technical heritage, federation about European maritime heritage, federation about fortified sites, about thermal towns, about historic houses, art nouveau network, about volunteers. Then we have hundreds and hundreds of different federations that give to us the capacity to push in a very effective way to the public authorities. One of the rules of these federations, like here you can see 90 organizations from Europe's cultural and creative sector urge European Union to invest in culture. Then you can see here 90 organizations are pushing. Then this capacity of impact and to give to the public authorities some pressure on the way that they have to manage the heritage of the cultural heritage is really important. The coordination between the multiple grouping and federation association reinforce the ability to influence on their environment. Well, far from these federations, we have the national and local associations. This national and local, very often the local association and very association that work in a very small area with a very specific target, are the most important part of the civil society organization. Then sometimes the cultural heritage volunteers, the friends of a monument, the friends of a city, the people working for specific, very specific subjects. As a quick example, I am just finishing in 1 minute. A very interesting element to understand what is the situation. Catalonia is not a very strange situation, is a very normal in Europe, but I know very well the situation of associationism in Catalonia. Then as example, the association, the right of association start in Catalonia in the middle of 19th century. Then from there, from the middle of 19th century to now, the situation improved for the citizens and for the groups organized. We have had a stop from 1940 with the dictatorship of General Franco, and with the recovery of the democracy in 1970 to today, the cultural association in Catalonia are more than 10,000 active entities. I have to say that Catalonia is a country with 7 million of inhabitants. 7 million of inhabitants have 10,000 active entities on cultural association for cultural heritage. Well, the branches are very different: literature, music, theater, art manifestations, architectural heritage, tradition, ethnography, hiking, as you want, very, very different activities. And one example of a federation in the associationism in Catalonia is Association for Dry Stone and Traditional Architecture. Here we have 32 very active local associations focused only in dry stone constructions. These 32 organizations made in 2019 more than 4,000 activities in our area. Conference, symposiums, publication, inventories, press articles, informative exhibitions, excursions, hikes, guide visits, restoration work with volunteers. As you can imagine, different activities, 4,000 activities in 1 year in a very small area of the Mediterranean territory. And I have to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Javier, for your contribution and providing a general background. We saw how organizing and providing framework for protecting cultural heritage can enhance the engagement of civil society, and through collaboration and cooperation can provide adequate capacity, such as the example you mentioned in Catalonia. We move now to Fabrice Dufour. Mr. Fabrice, he's a graduate in Cultural and Natural Heritage Studies and Non-Profit Organizations Management. He's a national delegate and project manager in charge of developing the international sector at Rempart since 2008. Fabrice has acquired a global vision of heritage issues today from his background in geography, history, and cultural heritage, and from experience in the sector of museums. He has developed a wide network of heritage NGOs based in Europe and other parts of the world. Fabrice also works on building a team of volunteers and involving them in local and non-profit heritage organizations. His contribution will be the civil society in motion, volunteers mobilization, and hands-on heritage preservation from a local to a global movement. Fabrice.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I'm going to share my screen now. I think it worked. Does it work from your side? Okay, perfect. Good morning, everybody. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me today. And thank you for this online symposium. I know you had fruitful discussions last week. It shows how the cultural sector is rich and made up of a living community of professionals and volunteers. It's a good thing. We have a lot of us because we definitely have a lot of work to do too. I took a position in my organization in 2008, just a few months after the completion of a project that Rempart had with RIWAC in Palestine. The project consisted of restoring, as you see on the pictures now, of restoring a traditional dwelling house in the village of Taibi, not far from Ramallah. At that time, such a project in which restoration tasks were given to volunteers was a first in Palestine and in many ways in the Middle East. I just want to remind our colleagues from my work how proud we were to be part of it and how much this project is still present in our records. I think Shata is recognizing herself on one of the pictures. Today, my presentation will focus on civil society and volunteers in a practical approach to heritage preservation, mainly in Europe, although I will sometimes take examples from elsewhere in the world. I will share my understanding of what can be considered as a movement in Europe with some selected illustrations from the projects I have visited over the past 12 years, examples of NGOs that have chosen to implement a practical approach to heritage preservation. Just like Rempart, with experience also inspires my speech here today. And as a conclusion, if I have enough time, I will also share some best practices and tips, things one must keep in mind when implementing projects with involving volunteers. So let's question this topic a bit first. The full title of my presentation says Civil Society in Motion. Why in motion? What's behind it? I will try to show that the situation, especially in Europe, has changed a lot over the last 50 years and has somehow increased if you look at the growing number of initiatives. Rabier shown a lot of examples of NGOs and civil society organizations through Europe, and I will make a focus on those who have a practical approach on heritage. The scope of non-profit heritage organization is very, very diverse. Very diverse, depending on whether we look at small or large-scale organizations, for example, or if we look at Western or Eastern Europe, where different models have developed. Some organizations have some sort of institutional position in their own country, like the National Trust of England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and are very powerful. Others are very small, much smaller, and have a very and sometimes have difficulties to make their voice heard. The large umbrellas, also mentioned by Javier, bring together a large number of organizations. They play a major role in structuring a dialogue with the European institutions. We used to talk about ICOMOS, about Europa Nostra, but there is also INTU, which is the International National Trust organization. Among these NGOs, some have a general interest in heritage and some have a very specific interest for a kind of heritage. Javier mentioned industrial heritage, rural heritage, and some NGOs are more focused on a topic like education and heritage, or interested in a mean of action like hands-on heritage preservation. Who are these organizations who believe that the practical preservation of heritage can both preserve the heritage and create social interaction and social impacts? Not all heritage organizations have developed an interest in hands-on activities for heritage preservation, of course. Only a few of them have developed this approach. We observe different waves of creations in Europe from the 60s, when Rempart and, by instance, the archaeological groups in Italy started their activities, to the year 2000, where we can name, for example, Manifattura Urbana in Italy too, or Dragodid in Croatia. Apart from the organizations I mentioned previously, heritage associations involved in a practical approach to preserving heritage are rather young when we compare them with other heritage associations. The National Trust was created at the end of the 19th century, by instance. More often, these new organizations are made up of a sort of heritage activists, and they share some common threads with the voluntary work movement without being fully associated with it. The fact that these organizations have built their actions on certain objects or sites, the fact that they have chosen these sites with a reuse project in mind, with groups of volunteers who are often recruited locally, and some of them being qualified for the restoration work. The fact that working on heritage often requires specific authorization, all that make that these projects have usually a very strong identity. As a matter of fact, what I'm talking about, this movement is very linked, very connected, first to the history of heritage preservation, and second to the history of volunteer movement as well. So when did people start volunteering for heritage? When did the field of heritage meet the field of volunteering? There is no clear history of the dialogue that can exist between heritage as a concept and volunteering. For sure, situations vary from country to country, but the first evidence of people giving time for the protection of sites in Europe can be found in the 19th century, at a time when regulations for the protection of cultural heritage were put in place. And this movement has also accompanied the emergence of the concept of heritage itself. A bit farther in time, right after the First World War and deeply linked to the peace building movement, a group of young volunteers from different countries organized the first international voluntary camp. This event took place in a village in the east of France, a place that had been totally destroyed by the conflict. The project was not focused on heritage itself, but on the idea of taking action to help people to rebuild their village and to build peace between countries. This is more after the Second World War that the growing interest for the heritage comes across volunteering and youth movement, mainly in Western Europe in the 60s and in the early 70s as well. Groups of volunteers made of idealists, enthusiasts, and sometimes also historians and scientists, and very often these people were both at the same time, start to take action on some abandoned and neglected heritage sites. This is in this context that organizations such as Rempart have built their statues on the idea that heritage is not only a matter of specialists, it belongs to everyone. The idea that volunteer work matters as well. Another strong idea that is associated to this, and which is a good illustration of Rempart, is that restoration work with volunteers is not only a visible way to take action for heritage, but also a good way to develop heritage awareness. Now, if I refer to the topic of this presentation, I also want to say that the movement has changed scale. It turned from a local movement to a global movement. Although quite modest if you compare it with the number of more general interest heritage organizations, organizations, such as the one we talked about earlier, the number of hands-on preservation organizations is slowly increasing. Most of the European countries count at least one organizations of that kind, while this type of NGO was very scarce in the 60s. Now we see initiatives of this kind developing in different countries, such as in Croatia, in Poland, in Romania, in Greece, in Spain, in Portugal, almost everywhere, in fact. Let's say that the movement spread from Western Europe to the East, along with an overall strengthening of the civil society cultural organizations. So in a way, the spreading and development of this kind of practical approach of heritage is accelerated. It is likely that digitalization contributes to accelerate the movement. It is probably easier today than it was in the past to promote actions very quickly and to mobilize people through social networks, for instance. But all this is also made possible because there is a freedom of association, which is common to European countries. And second, there is a growing interest for heritage that these kind of initiatives are contributing to reinforce. And this movement is good for heritage and good for the people too, obviously. Volunteering being in many cases and in many dimensions a source of social interaction, social impacts, a way to empower people. Here you see some pictures of the projects that we have implemented in China, for instance. So this is really a worldwide movement now. So we are not isolated. The movement is getting global. Rempart has developed its model and approach that makes heritage restoration and volunteering, but other likewise initiatives in Europe and in other parts of the world are existing. And this is good news, very good news actually. There is somehow an international movement to promote volunteer action on heritage, made up of 20 to 30 organizations, which like Rempart, Dragodit in Croatia, or Vopik in Russia, share the idea that people can be part of a restoration process for the heritage. Together, we form a community of practice. We make the diversity of the civil society in the field of cultural heritage. And together we are like a non-formal network, but lead concrete and visible actions on heritage. Some are more focused on the passing on of technical know-hows. We saw lots of NGOs focused on dry stone walling, for instance. Others have more an institutional position in their country, where others are more oriented to heritage preservation, militancy, but all have in common a hands-on approach of heritage. They organize trainings with volunteers. They organize working holidays with volunteers, willing at restoring some sites with concrete passing on of knowledge. So let me now quickly introduce you some aspects, some dimensions of Rempart. Rempart gather more than 180 local heritage associations to coordinate and promote the volunteer actions for heritage that they organize as a union. We monitor the quality of the preservation activities carried out by each of the members, and we keep a close check at the volunteer work. The goals are the reuse and the restoration of sites, the promotion of volunteer work with the principle of community education, the idea that everyone can take part in the process of restoration. And third, we contribute to the global raising of the awareness of the value of heritage. So the network is based a bit everywhere in France, I'm going to be fast on this. And the diversity of heritage that are took into account by the association is very large. Each of these sites are also part of a local development project aiming to restore or to preserve a site, but also to give it a new purpose, a new reuse, a new use for the society. So each local association has a special link with its site. And this is really important for us in the idea that groups of citizens are taking action for the sites. So usually we have a kind of long-term contract with the owners of the sites when the local nonprofit are not owners themselves. Because running activities for preserving heritage with volunteers in different places on different sites with different stakeholders, because all this require a bit of organization. Rempart is working constantly with its member to build its own rules. There is no instructions for use for such a diversity of activity in one single organization. So we elaborate together documents and charter that can inspire and guide our activities in order to stick to our social inclusion objectives, to our quality standards, and so on. Mostly run by volunteers, the association have a variety of actions apart from the volunteer camps that they organize. We have guided tours, cultural and social events, festivals, and so on. And all this is implemented mainly by volunteers. So Rempart does not only aim at preserving built heritage, but also to promote and keep alive traditional buildings and restorations techniques. Some of our organizations also implement inclusion camps for adults, young adults. Some are organizing heritage classes with school children. Roughly 20,000 of school children in France are taking part in these activities every year. So that's quite impactful. That's quite important, and it's also a way to change the mentality, to change the look that we have on heritage. As you can understand, in our view, it will not make sense to preserve heritage without involving the public in a community-based project. All our members are part of a cooperative action and always consider the local outcomes of their actions. Mostly located in remote places, work camps organized by Rempart members create a place of exchanges between locals, between generations, and people from different backgrounds. But also Rempart is arms open to welcome volunteers from across the world. Over 50 years, 20,000 international volunteers have joined us in France to take part in some projects that we implement. In addition to this, work camps are also an appropriate tool to develop intercultural dialogue. Volunteers discover group life during their stay, and Chata could share experience of it. They experience life together, they prepare together the meals, they share the evening together, they work and enjoy leisure activities grouped together. A volunteer heritage project work camp is really a place where people from various backgrounds, countries, and languages, religion experience a community life. This is always a unique experience and for sure a contribution to increase dialogue between the people, the communities, and the countries. So here are some of the data, some figures about the 2019 results. So we were able to organize around 350 missions, trainings, volunteer projects, and all these activities were able to gather more than 3,000 volunteers in France. So that's quite important. And locally, the movement is made of 10,000 members. So that's quite important. So the idea is really to invite people to have a special experience with heritage through hands-on preservation activities. So I don't want to be too long, but if I can share some tips of what can make a good project involving communities and volunteers, I would say that the strength of these actions is based on the quality of the project and its ability to last in time as well. To last over time, the project leaders must have a strong link to heritage as well. And above all, the project's meaning must have the projects must have a strong meaning and a usefulness for the communities. I think it's really important to have a strong identity as a project manager holders. I think we have to insist on the sense and the meaning, the signification of the kind of action we make in order to be able to involve very efficiently people. Here it is. This was my contribution.
Thank you, Fabrice, for the inspiring presentation. And we saw how volunteering actually provides a concrete passing of knowledge and broaden the scope of work from actual restoration and preservation to promoting cultural heritage and actually passing on heritage. We continue to our next guest, Alessio Ray. He's the Secretary General at Fondazione Sant'Agata for the Economic of Culture, Torino, Italy, an architect and an expert in cultural heritage and economic development. He's an adjunct professor at the University of Turin and the University of Pisa. Alessio coordinates the master program in World Heritage and Cultural Project for Development, the master program in Cultural Property Protection in Crisis Response, the International Academy on UNESCO and Sustainable Development, and the Heritage Beyond Walls program. He worked as a consultant for UNESCO and other agencies on cultural heritage-related projects in many countries worldwide. His contribution will be Heritage Equals People, Examples on the Social Role of Cultural Heritage. Alessio, please.
Yeah, shukran, Saja. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the introduction of my profile. It's very nice and it's very interesting to be with you all today. And really, I was learning from your presentations. Even in the past days, there were presented very great example of great interest for my work. My work is in the frame of the economics side of culture and heritage. And today I want to present, following your invitation to reflect on the role of civil society, I'd like to present under this title, Heritage Equal to People, with the idea of stressing in particular the role of people, which goes beyond really participation, involvement, audience development. These are definitions that in my modest experience are not fitting fully. The capacity, the importance of mobilizing people to take action towards heritage. So I'm starting from this picture, which was taken in Homs, shared by a friend of me. And when I saw this picture, of course, this is the St. George Church in Homs in Syria after the destruction. And looking at this picture, the question that came into my mind was, what is the heritage here? It is just the walls, or it is the people choosing this place for meeting again after such a dramatic moment. Um, of course, it's the combination of the two, but it's clear without people here, we don't have any form of heritage. And this is another picture that I like to show sometimes. It's taken from the Philippines. It's a village called Bayanihan, and the same name of this Bayan means town, means community. And this is a way, this is a tradition of the local people to move, to literally shift their traditional houses to prevent from hurricanes. So again, the question is the same. What is heritage here? It is just the building itself, or it's much larger than this. Not to talk about what we normally call, following the conventions, the intangible forms of cultural heritage, intangible expression of cultural heritage. This is the transhumance, which is common in some countries in Europe, where, of course, by definition, in any form of intangible cultural heritage, people is the center, because we are talking about living heritage. So we can say that heritage is a source of identity, sure. Is a complex web of meanings, not just values, meanings, relationships, beliefs. It's evolving, because people, we are evolving somehow. And it is acquired through a constant process of cultivation and improvement, especially by means of education. I would like to stress the word education, because I'm coming back to it. So in my view, we need to enlarge our view beyond the physical spaces. And I would like to present a few samples that to me are very, very relevant, very inspiring. Most of them are from Europe, but this is from Mexico, the first one. It's a urban spa. It's a project. If you don't know it, if you don't know it yet, I'm inviting you to take a look. It's very nice, inspiring. It's a fountain abandoned in a park, in an urban park in Chihuahua, Mexico. And the project was basically to reactivate the fountain, which was in disuse, by making an urban spa through a full process of involvement of youth, of students, of design, students in design. And now this is the result, a place which was reactivated, given back to the city. It's plenty of examples in this direction. Italy, I know that after me there is a presentation also presenting cases from south of Italy and from this region. Wonder Grottole is again a very interesting example. It's a social enterprise founded with the aim of reactivating the historic center of a very small historic village named Grottole, thanks to the regeneration of public spaces, of houses, and the creation of a new community based on this new awareness of their heritage. The Bank of Making, this is a free translation of Banca del Fare. Again, this time it's in the north of Italy. It's a project based, basically it's a school with the goal of contributing to the preservation of the built landscape, in particular through the traditional stone construction techniques, mobilizing youth from all over Europe to these places to transfer this technique. It's a volunteer camp, and this is a very famous example from Sicily, Italy, Farm Cultural Park in Favara, which is basically an art gallery and an artistic residence, a place for artistic residence, which was able to start a full regeneration process of an entire city. Take a look if you don't know it yet, because it's extremely interesting what they are doing there. And here it's another example. It's close to Torino. It's a public art installation with the idea to unveil to the resident, to push the resident people to understand the different potential uses of the public spaces of this traditional village. This was done after the first lockdown we had in Italy. So also to meet the desire of people to somehow go back to outdoor, to use the public spaces after 2 months of the lockdown that we had here. So it has also this special meaning. And this is in Greece. It's a place named Rocca. It's a canyon, quite isolated, just olives and rock and a few houses, where they established this festival. It's a music festival which was able to mobilize thousands of people to know a place which is extremely authentic, because you can feel from this picture by yourself. Music, talking about music, this is another interesting example that I would like to mention. It's Le Dimore del Quartetto. It's the quartet's mansions, houses. It's an initiative that try to match the needs of young quartets to find places to perform with the needs of historic houses owners or keepers to promote and to open and to promote the knowledge of these places. The natural environment, because when we talk about heritage, of course, the meaning that I give to it, it's large. It's not just the built one. And this is an example. This is a panoramic terrace. We are in the very north of Italy, becoming basically becoming transformed into an outdoor cinema. Looking, it's not a real cinema. You look and you can experience a spectacular view of the Alps. We are in a World Heritage Site, by the way, in this case, which is named the Dolomites. Or the Big Bench Community Project, which are basically installations of this big, large-scale bench to promote, of course, to promote tourism in some landscape rural area, but also to promote craftsmanship and local enterprises in general. Borderscapes, it's a creative route across France and Italy to promote the alpine cross-border areas through creative residencies, hosting artists from both France and Italy. And this is, again, I'm taking this picture from my region. This is Serralunga d'Alba. It's in the Langhe. Again, it's a World Heritage property. I choose this one because I like this place, but it's the Io Agisco. I take action project, basically trying to make a good use of the rivalry among different villages in pushing them to propose the best idea to restore the landscape. It's a competition, and it proved to be very effective in mobilizing people to have attention towards the landscape, which is in this case is their heritage. Again, from this region, this was a very, let's say, ugly wall in cement. This artistic installation was made as a sort of maquillage to recover the image of this wall. But apart from the artistic installation, the strong meaning is this one. You see that there is the green in the bottom part. So they didn't cover all the wall with the installation. The community is called to take action, to take care of this installation by maintaining the green. If they don't do it, the green will grow and will cover all the installation. So there is a strong symbolic meaning in pushing also the local inhabitants to take care about their spaces. And talking about volunteering and civil society, I'm sure all of you know FAI, the Italian Environment Fund. This is a special action of them called Apprendisti Ciceroni to involve the youth in the appreciation, of course, first of all of themselves, but also for their families, for the other people, towards our heritage. And so we talk about education. So I'm talking here about a project that we launched a few time ago with our group, with our foundation, which basically stands on the idea of investing in people and investing in youth in particular, because of course, if we invest in the young people, we are doing a double investment for the present and for the future. So it is worth to. And this is the title of the project. This is the beginning of the project. We are in a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, and it is a youth camp targeted on people from youth from 15 to 18. So that age before they normally go to other places to study to the university, and most of them, they don't come back to their original places. It's a non-formal educational program, basically with the goal of enhance the resilience, the territorial resilience capacity, and to accelerate communities development through the transmission of cultural practices. It is based on interactive learning. As you see from the picture, the foundation is to deepen the understanding of the Sustainable Development Goals. What is interesting is that they are doing this interacting deeply with the local people, local players, in order to favor the intergenerational and even cross-boundary exchange, because they are taking part both from Italy and from France. And they involve also other sectors, let's say, including agroecological activities, craftsmanship, organization working with tourism. Basically, what they do, they try to identify the needs in a participative manner, their needs, their demand, and they address their proposal to the community leaders with the goal of enabling them, the community authorities, to better comply with their demand and expectations. This was a very successful program. We received a number of good recognitions and achievements, not just at the local level, but also at the national and the international level. And we realized, because now it's the third year that we do this experience, we started in 2018, we realized how it was through a simple initiative, through a few youth taking part to these camps, we realized the effectiveness of this in terms of being able to adopt alternative narratives of community values, to facilitate, as I said, cross-sectorial dialogue and cross-generational one, to enhance the collaboration among various stakeholders, and to revive the capacity to set up international cooperation initiative, because of course it's important for these remote areas to have access to funds to implement their initiative. After this first experience, we are trying to scale, to enlarge the scale of this. We set a program which is called YES, standing for Youth Empowerment for Sustainability, working with environment, with culture and cultural heritage, and with people, Now we are doing this experience in other two places. One is the Sacred Mountain, World Heritage Property here in Piedmont again, and one is in the eastern side of the Alps of Italy. And in doing this, in scaling this, we are also trying to make a large use of the digital tools, which are of course the social media. We set an Instagram page for letting them interact, but we are also trying, and we developed a gaming experience in order to have another tool to push, to incentive youth to be aware, first of all, and to take action towards the resources expressed by the lands, the territories where they live. Another achievement is this one, which is a workshop that we are going to do in February, titled Youth Engagement in UNESCO Designated Sites. So we are doing this together with UNESCO, with the idea of, again, empowering the youth capacity of enabling resources, ideas, first of all, towards a sustainable perspective of development based on our cultural capital, our cultural, natural, and community resources as driver for development. And let me conclude with this, which is not a scaling of this initiative, but is something that stands very close to what I was saying. And it's a project that it's an initiative, it's not really a project, not yet, that we launched a few days ago. It's about Syria, which is a country, of course, facing a terrible situation by almost 10 years by now. And it's an initiative that was inspired by a very good friend. And it's a project about the people and the future. And yes, we are trying to mobilize attention, resources to a place, to a country with such an incredible richness of heritage, but we are doing it not just for the heritage, not just for the stones, for the monuments, but especially for the people and the people of the future, because we strongly believe, and we want to believe, that there won't be war in the future. So thank you for making me mentioning this. Of course, all these initiatives are open to share with you all, possibly. I would like to say take care at the very end, and to congratulate with you all for the great work that with REWAC in particular are doing, and that we are following from here as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alessio, for the interesting contribution. After we saw with Alessio how once the community and especially the youth is empowered, cultural heritage promotion is the result. And we continue with our next speaker, Antonio Graziati. He's an architect and archaeologist, a member of ECOMOS Italian Committee. Antonio is the CEO of a research workshop on the Mediterranean landscape. He has been working and researching on preservation and management of cultural heritage and landscape for more than 50 years, focusing his main research interests on the analysis and preservation of the landscapes, the traditional knowledge, and the relationship between tangible and intangible heritage. Antonio's contribution will be sharing knowledge and preserving landscapes, some experiences of Eco Museum in Basilicata region, southern Italy. Antonio, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Saja. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to REWAC for this very interesting symposium and for inviting me to take part. Thanks to the panelists that have been very inspiring with their presentations. And I will, I'm trying to share my screen now. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Well, I'm presenting here the two experiences from my region, that is a region in southern Italy. It was mentioned before by Alessio with a very interesting experience. And I will present my association that is called Paesaggi Meridiani. It's an association that that works through research and action strategies in the field of cultural heritage and landscape. The association operates in the spite of European Convention of Landscape and the Faro Convention on the value of cultural heritage for society that was mentioned before by Javier. Actually, the association can count on the work of many professionists in the field of architecture, archaeology as well, but also anthropology and sociology. The presentation will concern activities realized by our association in Basilicata, as I told, by two projects that represent the very first experiment in the field of ecomuseum in our region. As you can see, this is a map of ecomuseum in Italy. Our region is here, that is totally blank without any ecomuseum. And we are working with two experiences. The one is the Ecomuseo del Paesaggio di Tito. It is located here. And the second one is the network of ecomuseums of landscapes or Arab landscapes in Basilicata that involves 3 villages. We are dealing with internal areas that are mostly with very small villages, and with a dimension of cultural heritage that can be seen in urban patterns, but as well in the way they have lived and experienced it and inhabited it. Unfortunately, we have to face with a very strong depopulation trend, as you can see. And this depopulation is very visible in the heritage, both in urban heritage and in the rural heritage. And this deterritorialization marginalized rural areas, but as well as I told before, villages as well. And often it happens in Basilicata that oil companies exploit the huge catchment we have in oil, that is the biggest of Europe, of inland Europe. So we have huge camps of oil extraction that is drilling our region, but as well we have an aggression from wind companies that exploits the wind present here. As you can see, this is the number of wind mills, wind factories in our region that is totally out of scale if compared with the other regions of Italy. So it's a very hard situation in as we have seen. The first project is the Ecomuseo del Paesaggio di Tito, that involves a very various area populated by about 7,000 inhabitants, that goes from territories within a national park, that is the Parco Nazionale dell'Appennino Lucano, that is that is in the south part of this region, within the park, we can find very interesting archaeological sites with a large territory covered by excavations. But we have as well a very polluted and contaminated industrial area. In the territory of the municipality, we have as well a very interesting agricultural area that has both tangible and intangible interesting aspects that we will see further. The project started in the February 2017 with meetings with the local organizations and public speaking to involve the population. Then the association of this village involved in the project presented one or more activities they plan to do to introduce various parts of the tangible and intangible heritage, and trying this way to facilitate and integrate the participation of a community into the process. This is the part of the project called Le Associazioni per l'Ecomuseo, the Association for the Ecomuseum. And at the same time, we started with a questionnaire that was spread within the community. And the questions were aimed to collect prompts about some elements of the heritage and how to try to understand the way the communities felt the heritage and which was their point of view on the possibility to develop the territory in a sustainable way. Another part of the project was the involvement of students for the primary school with a nursery rhyme that was presented to them, in which a character named Titino, you know, the name of the place is Tito, so the character is called Titino, little Tito. And he was asking a child to draw a place of the village and to tell him something about the traditions and the places and so on. The results were very, very interesting. As you can see, in this very, very small part of what the children produced, and the answer was drawn in a postcard for Titino, as you can see here, and it was a very interesting exercise for children to think about their heritage. Then we started with interview to citizens and the recording of their experiences of life, and the recording of the audio and visual recordings will be part of a huge archive we are building of the memories of this place. We hopefully think of an implementation of this project with this online archive. In the meantime, we started as well with workshops for the drafting of a parish map, and the discussion of course focuses on the landscape and heritage with the elements and trying to put on a cartography. Each identified field was described with pictures, with the drawings of the children, and placed on a cartography, as you can see. It was a very interesting exercise of self-recognition. This is the final map for this part of the project, and this was uploaded on Google Maps, so that each place or each activity is visible by clicking on the number. And this is the map made up with the draw of the children. As you can see, it is very, very interesting and creative and playful map on the base of a Google map. We put the draw of the children in the places they represented. So that is this was very, very shocking for the communities when they saw this product by the children. They started to think about their places in a different way. The second project is the project called Rete degli Ecomusei dei Paesaggi Arabi di Basilicata. That is a network of ecomuseum of Arab landscapes in Basilicata that encompasses territories belonging to the districts of Pietrapertosa, Tricarico, and Tursi. That some of them are very close to the project mentioned before by Alessio Re in Grottole. These three villages have a very teeny population that is from 1,000 to 5,000 in Tricarico and Tursi, and the features are sceneries of great interest and beauty. The project involves these territories because they share the presence of Saracen. That means Arabs coming from mostly from Sicily, from the Sicilia. It was, as you know, an Islamic country at the in the 9th and 11th, from 9th to 11th centuries. And these places preserved evidence of this frequentation in urban patterns. This is the map of one of them, as well in some features of the historical center, in the structure of agricultural areas or production areas, in the water management systems, and in many words of in particular related to craftsmanship and agriculture. Very interesting is the presence of toponyms as well of Arabic origin. That is, for example, the Rabatana, that is probably related to the Ribat. And this is the Rabatana of Tricarico. But as well, we have place names that are, for example, Castelbellotto, Castelballut, or the river Salem. So there is a very interesting presence in toponyms that reminds to an Arabic presence. The leading theme of the project is the rediscovery and the promotion of the cultural heritage pertaining to the Arabic presence in the region. But a further goal is rethinking knowledge as a contemporary tool for the management of landscapes, just as it was done before by agricultural and urbanistic transformation that we have in the last century. In this sense, the Arabic presence is a chance to start a process of communities empowerment and civic responsibility and participation in the care for territorial heritage. During the presentation meetings, we try to get in touch with the local organization and to spread the word and try to involve them in the project. And then we started with participated works. This is an image of the so-called Orti Saraceni. That means an agricultural area that is called by the Saracens Orti Saraceni with a very interesting agricultural system, but it is the proof of a very high level capacity of manage local resources and as well to manage the landscape. So the Arabic presence is only the starting point to think, to going back and thinking the best way to preserve and manage the landscapes and the historical centers. Then we started with the participated works organized by the associations of involved in the project. And we were inspired by the idea of Hugues de Varenne, that is, of course, one of the most important theoric of the ecomuseums. And he said that the best way to know a region is working in it by foot, turning to its inhabitants as guides, making them speak of their cultural heritage, their places. So we try to do exactly this, and we started to explore the places with the inhabitants. These are images from Pietra Pertosa, and on the left you can see the Saracen fort that is on the top of the rock. Following, this is the Rabatana of Tricarico, another work. And after this, we started to work with workshops in order to map the various elements of the local heritage. And we had a short description for each of them. And we collected all of them in an only one scroll of paper that became a sort of big log of the involved communities. And this is another very representative and tangible output of this project, very appreciated by the communities to have a log of what they have done, of what they have written and talked about. During the realization of the project, we tried, this is another aspect that is very more silent, but we try to do with a firm intention this to perceive this aim. We try to give space to the search of connection through the rediscovery of common roots with the other Mediterranean shores in a time in which we are having many arrives of migrants from North Africa and Eastern Mediterranean, and in Italy we have a very strong opposition from the local population to this presence. So the project tried to silence, but as I told before, with a firm intention to create links and trying to accept and give new value to what was transmitted in terms of intangible and tangible heritage by populations that a century ago made the same roots that are covered today by the migrants, and that are often perceived by others as others by the community. And this we point among the project goals is that of using ecomuseum as a vehicle of peace, confrontation, and knowledge, promotion of tolerance, mutual respect, and cultural diversity. Of course, during this year, 2020, the activities of both the ecomuseum were decreased because of COVID. But now we are trying to plan other activities, and we are trying to focus on 4 goals that are: the first, going on with the production of parish maps. The second is trying to dialogue with the institutions to make more effective actions of protection, relying on the community's experience and knowledge. Third is locating financial and human resources for working on heritage, both tangible and intangible, of course, with more specific and detailed projects. And what we have seen before is very inspiring. Fourth, strengthen the process of communities' involvement in the projects. This is a very challenging perspective, but we try to face and to oppose to the abandonment phenomena with the loss of knowledge and heritage. And I would like to conclude this presentation with the words of a sociologist, an Italian sociologist, that is Franco Cassano, that inspired many of our projects. He says that occorre riguardare I luoghi nel duplice senso di aver riguardo per loro e di tornare a guardarli. That means more or less relooking at places in the double sense of looking at them with care and looking back at them. The double sense is based on the word riguardare, that in Italian can be interpreted both with going back to the places and looking them again and take care of the places. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antonio, for the enlightening presentation. After what we saw, how different levels of interaction with cultural heritage can affect promotion the cultural heritage. And now we finish our session, and we continue with my colleague Shada Safi.
Thank you, Saja. Saja, can you mute? Thank you, Saja. Thank you, everybody. That was really a rich session. We started with Javier as he gave us a broader sort of framework and overview of how civil society organizations and civil society have strong presence in Europe in general, and also specifically in the sector of cultural heritage preservation and promotion. And the idea, and he gave us also some sort of examples of their work in Rehabimed, but also other civil society organizations that have had impacts and more work in the region. And it's also some sort of reflecting or having some sort of a mirror to the community itself, because it's part of individuals, a group of individuals who form and gather for a specific cause. We also continued with Fabrice with more general framework, but also with more focus on hands-on and practical approaches of civil society role. And it was really inspiring, the role of volunteering as a way of promoting activism, as an engine for heritage awareness and involvement, and from a local example to a global example. And I myself is a witness of how enriching and life-changing voluntary work can be. I was part of a youth camp in Taipei, as he mentioned, 13 years ago, and it truly changed my life. We continued with Alessio to have some sort of critical approach of what heritage is, and with more focus on people as preservation, as a presentation of heritage. And he gave us some very inspiring examples of how community can reclaim and can define spaces and define heritage through their perspective or perspective. Some really true inspiring examples of community definitions through artwork, through vegetation, through music, through urban pockets and interventions in plazas to define what's the meaning of such spaces and such heritage to people. And the example also in Syria and other places in Europe and elsewhere, such as Mexico, hosting, beautification, lots of examples that let us have more window on looking how people can create meaning for heritage or for spaces. And also the role of empowering communities with special focus on youth as a future generation of how we preserve and we develop our heritage and our identities. We moved to Antonio with more focus on landscapes, but also on the examples of Basilicata. And he gave us some very interesting tools for community engagement with kids and youth. The mental mapping was a really inspiring example of how communities and their eligibilities, their recognition and re-recognition of the spaces can mean, and how through very simple tools such as adding our perspective on our heritage on Google Map can reshape our perception to our heritage. And rethinking, there was also a very important message that he shared through rethinking know-how and knowledge as a management tool for spaces and landscapes and communities. We are now open for the questions and answers. We had some questions already answered through our contributors, sharing their links and sharing their info. Alessio thankfully shared his info and contact. So I encourage you as an audience to put more questions in the Q&A section. And we'll start by the first question, Saja.
The first question is for Antonio. Can you say more about the refugees issue and the possible use of heritage as a medium to open up for the others?
Well, thank you for this question that is very, very interesting and inspiring for our work. We had in mind this aim to pursue, to trying to make much more evident the role that this is the reason why an ecomuseum is named by the Arabic presence. Otherwise, it's not and so easily understandable. So why we call the ecomuseum of Arabic landscapes? Because starting from what probably Arabic people in the 9th and 11th centuries coming to our region for sure not for making wars, because they took agricultural capabilities, knowledge linked to the maintenance of the landscapes. Words that are related to craftsmanship are not things that can be taken by people that want to do war. And what history told us, the official history told us, is that they were here for steal, for taking goods, and and they were against the local presence of Byzantines, Longobards. So the traditional history, it is not based on the written sources, but only based on the one side of the sources, that is the Christian side, they present them as invaders, but they have left us many interesting aspects and knowledge related, as I told you, to craftsmanship and agriculture. So in a modern key, we are trying to open this possibility to think to the presence of other people coming from other places, and they, as they have done in the past, they can do now in the present to take care of the landscape, no matter how, which way they do. For example, many places of our internal areas are depopulated, and sometimes we have proposal to give many of these abandoned villages to migrants for going back to a new population. And of course, this is a very difficult theme to discuss in politics, because we have many oppositions to this position, to these ideas. So the aim is to use eco-museums and traditional knowledges and culture and heritage as a bridge, as a link to other cultures and other ways of thinking about landscapes, about common practices, and trying to enrich our places and our cultures. Thank you for this very important question.
Thank you, Antonio. And the next question is for Alessio. We would like to know more about the Syrian project, if you please.
Yes, sure. Sure, thank you. Well, I shared, for those of you who did already access to the question and answer box, I shared a link where you can find some information. But yes, since there is a question, I'd like to explain a little bit more. Of course, I don't have to say anything about Syria, because you know much better than me the situation that in which that affected the country by almost 10 years. But our group is somehow attached to Syria, if I may say this, because our founder, which was Walter Santagata, professor in cultural economics, did one of his very first project in Syria for the citadel of Damascus. And after that, he entitled his first research group center to EBLA. So we still have the name, an association titled EBLA, and not everybody immediately understand, but of course I'm talking about the ancient city of EBLA and Syria. And also I'd like to mention, so this is the reason, the symbolic reason why we decided to start this initiative by Syria. There is another one. In March, Italy was in the middle of the lockdown. It was a very sad and terrible moment. And I remember I received from a friend a picture from Aleppo, showing a church in Aleppo. I don't remember the name of the church, but with the light enlightened with the Italian flag, so as a sign of solidarity. And we were receiving many signs of solidarity from many countries. So I told to my friend, yes, I saw many pictures like that. And the reply was, yes, but Aleppo is not like the rest of the world, is special. So I was thinking at the time that how a country, people living in destruction for many years were so generous to show a sign of solidarity to a Western country, to us, And so I thought it was true that they were special, and I thought that I wanted to do something. So there is a very strong personal meaning in this initiative. I don't like to call it project because it's something probably more. And let me spend a word about the title that we gave. It's Heritage Beyond Walls. The keyword is beyond. It's more than a project. I believe in this case it's Syria, but the world is full of conflicts. And in this case, I really believe it's a matter of hurt, as I said, and of justice. It's beyond the stones. It's beyond the craziness of the war. It's beyond the emergency because we believe that a better future will happen hopefully soon. And it's about the people. It's not about the stone per se. It's about the people, meaning not just them, but all of us. So we believe we try. I don't want to be too naive, of course, in doing this, but we believe a lot in this initiative, and we believe, I mean, in the future, we believe there won't be war. So I hope that some of you will join, will contribute. It's totally volunteer. It's self-financed by us. It's not something for profit, but at the same time, I really would like this to be a very first step to make something bigger possibly. So each of you is really invited. It's open. It's an open thing. So it's really invited to provide any kind of contribution, ideas, whatever.
Thank you, Alessio. Our next question is for Javier. It seems that all actions in Europe are carried under the state eye. What about the unorganized individuals and their contributions? Can the sum of these individual actions also evolve into political action that influence policy decisions? The mic is mute.
Yes, now it's working. And well, it's a very interesting question. For sure, the normal way is the official organizations. We have a big capacity for make pressure to the decision makers, but in sometimes, for sure, in some not formal associations with a specific problem in a specific place, the people are mobilized, the people are making demonstration, the people are against the power, and the people try to stop the destruction of some of the main elements for the community identity. Then the good way is to move by the official organizations, official associations that are have the capacity to prevent the problems. But of course, the problems that arrive in one moment, the bulldozer is going to destroy a monument. This monument, it is another discussion, but this monument is not protected heritage because the law don't declare this monument. Then is not protected. The private property have the capacity to destroy this monument, and the people is mobilized in order to prevent this destruction. And this could be made by the associations, but could be made by the people. And it's not one case. A lot of cases arrive in these situations, but I think it is the solution for problems that arrive in one moment without prevention. But the thousands and thousands of organizations that are working in our countries as we saw in this session, have a big capacity to prevent, to arrive to this situation that is are not good for nobody.
Thank you. Thank you, Thank you, Javier. And also referring to Alessio's comment, huge respect to the people of Syria. And it's worth also mentioning that Aleppo, the Old Souk project, rehabilitation project, has recently received the Ikram Sharjah Athar Prize for award for best practices in conservation of the Islamic heritage. So it's not only that they work under conflict and under such challenging circumstances, they share solidarity and they take action. So huge respect to the people of Syria. Another question to, yes, Alessio?
Yeah, I would like absolutely to underline this on our side as well. And yes, luckily we were honored to have the possibility to let the coordinator Ismail Ali of the project of rehabilitation that recently won the ICRAM award in our panel, in our team, let's say, of panelists for the project that I mentioned. Also, since I mean, I don't like to talk about destruction because I really believe heritage is about the future. So I never show pictures of the destruction, but because this is not the idea that we have to keep in our mind. And also another project that was actually in the same day, if I'm not wrong, awarded by Europa Nostra, and that we included into our project is the Urkesh Mozan archaeological site rehabilitation through youth, coordinated by Giorgio Buccellati and Andiara Moalla. So I'm very proud and I'm very grateful also to the people that are doing this huge work of not just of reconstruction, because it's not the reconstruction. The focus, according to me, is reactivating, is seeing heritage as an opportunity to activate or reactivate social process and dynamics, not just in conflict areas, even in our cities, even here in Torino, in Italy. This is very true actually in my work. Sorry if I took a couple of minutes more, but I wanted to stress this.
No, thank you. So another question for Fabrice. What is the balance between working local and going global? In other words, when is going global is a threat for local identities and their practices? This is question number one.
This is a thorny question. Thank you very much. Well, I think that all the projects that I have presented before, they are really focused on local heritage, local know-hows, how bringing local people to work with people coming sometimes from farther. The idea is really to be open, but at the same time to cultivate a local identity. And this movement is global in the sense that all these different initiatives are facing same like issues. They have to struggle to recruit people, to recruit volunteers. They face similar issues regarding to the kind of sites they want to protect. They face similar legal issues as well. So all these issues around how to bring people together, how to make that the project is safe for everyone, how to make that the project is also respectful for the heritage and so on. All this in somehow is global and can be treated globally, because we can bring answers that are global to all these singular projects. But it remains that all these single projects are very unique and very specific. And concerning the second part of the question, which was related to what Rabia said about the number of non-profit and the number of NGOs as a criteria to define the vitality of democracy and so on. I totally agree that to me, a society where lots of where civil society is developed through NGOs, through non-profit organizations, through institutions where citizens uh, are sharing ideas and are debating and so on, is really really important. It's really an indicator of democracy. And to jump to another question that was for the other speakers concerning refugees. You know that in Europe as well, we got lots of refugees coming from different regions in the world. And what we have experienced at Rempart for the last 2 years is that because refugee, when they arrive in France, by instance, and that they have no yet papers to work and so on, they are like stuck in places where they cannot work because this is not yet legal for them to work. They cannot do a lot of things. So what we do is that we have a connection with those social inclusion centers where people are accommodated and where people are hosted, and we offer people to join our project by 2 or 3 and stay with us during 2 weeks to meet people, to be useful as well. It is very rewarding for them to enter into the culture of the country which is welcoming them, and this is a way to integrate them. And we think that this is also one of the benefits of working on heritage and sharing heritage. It is also in France that these kind of things are possible with heritage.
Thank you. I'm sure Javier would like to elaborate more on this point, right? As an indicator of democracy.
Yes, I think, well, I don't say that the number of organization is an indicator of democracy or the level of democracy for a country. Really, the number is really, really important. But for me, the most important is not the number. The most important is the law that permit to the organizations to act, because, for example, Algeria is a country with 100,000 of associations, but their capacity to act is very, very limited. In Europe, in most of the European countries, the capacity to act for the associations working on cultural heritage is really important, and we have the right to be financed by the public authorities. Then part of the budget of the country goes to our activities. Then it is also important. It's not the same in all the countries. Then it is a very complex subject, but really the vitality of the civil society by the different organization is really a good indicator for the democracy, in some countries.
Thank you. I think we don't have any more questions. I have a small question for Fabrice on how you choose your missions. Do you have some sort of criteria, or how do you choose your missions?
You mean the missions that we implement in France, or
no, elsewhere also?
Elsewhere, okay. So in France, the movement Rempart is made of local non-profit associations. So every local association which is taking care of a building, which will to welcome volunteers and to start a restoration process and project with the volunteers, is invited to join Rempart. It's really a bottom-up approach. Rempart is made of the local members. It's not a national NGOs coming from an international will. It is really a national NGO coming from a local will. And concerning the projects abroad that we are sometimes invited to help to start and so on, it really depends on the first contacts that we have with NGOs, and it really, I think it's a powerful tool to help projects to start abroad. In some context, by instance, if I take the example of Romania, which is within Europe. In Romania, we were contacted 10 years ago by a local NGO that wanted to do something for its heritage, but had no real idea, no concept to do it and to start. And it was very challenging because in Romania, where the country was under communism for years and years, and one of the effects of communism was to erase a little bit the history and the past of the people, and also to make that people, when they were out of communism, they were not really happy to do things together, to be forced to do things together. So the idea of bringing people together for restoring heritage was not something easy, but we succeeded thanks to this concept of volunteering for heritage through heritage projects like this, because it is an happy mix between discovery, between intercultural things, activities, and something very useful through restoration work.
Thank you. I'm here now to thank you. If you don't have any final comments from the contributor or any final notes you would like to share. Okay, so I thank you all for this rich session that we also try to approach heritage in a broader sort of or comprehensive spectrum, looking at communities, their mobilization, working with hands-on, but also with landscape and recognition of legibility studies and mental maps of the community of their own heritage. We were truly happy to have you today, and hopefully this symposium and this session will open up windows for collaboration in the future between Palestine and Europe, and the region and Europe and elsewhere, only for the sake of heritage and people and its people. So I now thank you all for being here, and I give the mic for Mr. Raphael Trouilly, the director of Tetractus. I hope I said his name right. So Raphael is Mathilde now.
Yes, it's
yes.
Mathilde computer.
Yes, so I give you the mic for the closing speech of this symposium. Please.
Thank you very much, Shada. From Grenoble, under the snow, I am Raphael Trouillet, the director of Tetractus, and I speak on behalf of the 4 partners of the project, my culture, my heritage, my identity. It is time to end this symposium on cultural heritage in Palestine. What a rich and pertinent week. Rich in terms of meetings with very good people, committed and determined, rich in quality content. You will find each presentation in the proceedings of the symposiums and records on the project web portal www.myheritage.ps. And it was rich as well in prospect for partnerships and a new project. May this symposium bring out new collaboration between us. We studied the concept, the notion of heritage on many dimensions, social, historic, politic, economic. We question our intimate and collective links to heritage. The heritage theme is particularly relevant in Palestine. This was highlighted on Wednesday during the speeches. This symposium have shown the unfailing involvement of civil society actors in the preservation of heritage, particularly the young people like Monsieur Dufault pointed out this morning. And this is this which confirms the importance of project and program like My Heritage, My Identity. I am now convinced that heritage has superpower. Create human links with all the strata of the community, put in perspective the link of inhabitants with its territory, create local economy that cannot be relocated. The heritage is the support of an harmonious development of the territories. We can talk about the virtuous cycle of the heritage, and we are all part of the heritage community. Thank you. Thank you very much to all our partners for giving us the opportunity to work on this great program. Thank you to the European Union, to the French Development Agency, the cities of Bethlehem and Grenoble. Thank you as well to the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities of Palestine, the MOTA, because he was always support us, and they were very committed during all the project. Thank you to the speakers who agreed to participate in this symposium under these crazy conditions. Thank you to the 400 participants who followed this week with interest. And thank you to the REWAC team, sorry, Shada, who were very supportive in organizing this symposium. As you have understood, this symposium is the end of our 3 years program. Thank you very much to the great team who worked so hard. Hannah, Mathilde, Maysoon, Elias, Musa, George, Martin. It was such a very nice human adventure. We hope that the seeds we sowed will bear delicious fruit in the future. Thank you and see you soon, all in Palestine.
Thank you so much, Raphael. And thank you all for this interactive symposium, for this interactive session. I also point out that all sessions are recorded, and I have shared the link already. You'll find the first day available, and hopefully by tomorrow you'll find the rest of the sessions also available on the YouTube channel of My Heritage, My Identity, following the link that we shared, and we'll also reshare with you through email for all those who registered. On another hand, we're also having some sort of brochure or ebook as a documentation for the symposium with more insights on how the sessions were from the contributors and from others. With all the bios, all the information on also about the associations that you'd like to link with or collaborate with in the future. Thank you all for today. Thank you also for our team, Saja and Abed on the IT, and for the translators who tolerated our accents and different. Now I lost my vocabulary as for tolerating such moments. Thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you. Bye-bye.